Welcome back to another episode of Kate and Isaiah Living Large. I'm Isaiah.
And I'm Kate.
And on this episode, we're going to talk about stress eating. But before we get into that, there was some wild and crazy stuff that happened this past week. So we're going to talk about it. Before we get into all the serious stuff, you did your second debut of your comedy special.
Yeah, actually, I tried a new intro. So what happened was, and we're going to get into all the crazy stuff that happened over the last few days here in St. John, New Brunswick, which is where we're located, in case you are a person who is listening from away and found us online somewhere and are not one of our friends, which we assume all of you are.
You're all our friends. If you're listening, you are our friend.
Yeah. But if not, we are located in St. John, New Brunswick, and there are a few pretty significant things that happened in the last few days between weather and fire and things like that, which we will get into. But because of that, there happened to be a few cancellations on John Forward's No Jokes Barred lineup, which moved also from Saturday to Friday night. And now that I'm part of the New Brunswick stand-up comedy scene, I'm part of their secret Facebook page. So when he posted that he might need some more comics, I was like, I mean, if you'll have me. and he did. And so this time, well, there was a great lineup last time, but there was like a really terrific lineup of comics that were on this bill. And I was like, I got there and I was like, what have I done? These people... One of them was Shane Ogden, who is just incredible. He's
crazy,
like father of the New Brunswick comedy scene. He's been doing it for like 20, 25 years. He's just so good.
Oh yeah, he's amazing.
And he was there and I was like, oh, I'm going to do this in front of Shane Ogden. And just so many good people. And so when I got there, I was like, put me on first. Like, get it out of the way because I'm not following anybody. Like Michelle Lynn Petit was there. Like just such good comedians.
Celebrities within the comedian world in
I mean, like
area,
as much as being a celebrity in St. John, New Brunswick is that they are. So I got off there and I revamped my opening line, which I've now said is welcome to my Netflix special. Oh, this isn't my Netflix special.
It is.
What did I sign?
It is to me. So yeah, No Jokes Barred. I've gone to a few. They're pretty good. They do them once a month. Is that right?
Yeah, they do them monthly.
Yeah, so they're awesome. Check them out on their Facebook page for sure for any upcoming ones that you want to go check out. But how did your set go this time around? Your second debut?
Well, I didn't fill the room with all people I knew, although I did have some great friends show up at the last minute, like my friends Katie and Sarah, and Melvin and Kristen, who all listen to this podcast regularly. Hey guys. And also our mutual friend, our friend who we met each other through, Nigel showed up, and I haven't seen Nigel. I don't think I've seen him since the pandemic.
No, that's been a long time.
Like I didn't say this to him, but I'm pretty sure that the last time I saw Nigel, his youngest daughter wasn't speaking.
That's crazy.
Because she's like 5 now, isn't she?
Yeah, she would be in elementary school.
Yeah.
Or like kindergarten. Yeah.
So she's 5 that's basically the thing I just said.
Whatever age children are when they go. Listen, we have previous episodes. We have determined that I don't know weights of children. I don't know much about children. This is how this goes.
But yeah, so overall, I felt like I revamped. It was basically the same set, but I revamped a couple of things and what a friend of mine said to me after, who's also a comedian, he said that I said, I didn't feel like I got as many laughs. He's like, yeah, but you got harder laughs this time.
Yeah,
and I was like, okay, counts. Which is better.
Nice.
And I think I got so many laughs last time because it was all people going, look at Caitlin go.
And so you got to step in because we had the hurricane coming in on Saturday and people canceled. Is that what it was? Or was it the fire that caused people to cancel?
I think it was a combination of the two things because he had to change the day from Saturday to Friday, which caused a couple of people to not be able to come in from out of town so that was because of the impending hurricane. And then a couple more people had issues getting into town out of fear of coming into town because of the fire.
Gotcha. So speaking of the hurricane, how did you fare with the hurricane? You're uptown.
I'm uptown.
With all this stuff. How was uptown? I know King Square got just wrecked again. There's
Yeah,
some beautiful
King Square's
trees that
got
knocked down.
yeah, it had more trees knocked down. I mean, that's kind of a wind tunnel of an area, right?
is.
It's right at the top of the hill. There's a reason it's the King's Square. Don't know why that accent came out. That's just the
that
way.
wasn't even like a British accent. I don't know what you were going for there, but
Yeah, that was an unfortunate slip. But yeah, so King Square always takes a beating and these sorts of things, especially as more trees come down. There's much more wind because I know weather, and that
that's what happened.
just seems legitimate.
Yeah, this one seemed like we had stronger winds this time around since last year's hurricane.
Well, last year's Fiona didn't really hit us.
Yeah,
Like it really hit our neighbors in Nova Scotia quite hard and Prince Edward Island quite hard. Whereas this one, we were on the path. I don't know if anybody watched the tracking thing. That tracking thing very obviously looked phallic.
yes.
I was like, Lee is making a name for himself.
Yeah, no, it definitely, yeah.
It's like the guys that go by with their motors on. Really, it's like you're trying to prove something, aren't you, Lee?
Right. And then I saw someone online that had posted that there was like a tracker or a bar that said that it hit between the area of Maine and Nova Scotia. Did you see that?
Yeah, I did. Yes, between the area
Maine and Nova Scotia.
Maine and Nova Scotia, otherwise known as New Brunswick.
Thanks, everyone.
But like we're known as the drive-through province.
Yes, yeah. So I know that it was pretty windy up here. It was really, really rainy. My lovely tree that was out front, when Fiona came, it knocked it down, so I didn't have to worry about that this time around.
That's good.
But I didn't lose power here. A flicker of power went out, but I didn't lose power. Did you lose power?
No, I didn't lose power. It was windy, certainly. And I because I live on the top floor of my building, it felt a little like it was shaking a little bit. And the nighttime winds seemed to be quite heavy, but ultimately it was fine. And Saturday I went to visit a friend in the valley and it was fine. Like,
yeah.
It was, I have a theory about, and I mean, not to delegitimize any of it because like it needs to be this way sometimes, but I sometimes think we overtell the story of weather before it gets here and people end up in a panic mode. And then when it actually hits, it's not as bad as you were thinking in your head, but thank God we're prepared.
Right.
So it's like a catch-22.
Also, thank goodness for Nova Scotia being our shield that blocks us for the most part.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Yikes.
Yeah, Nova Scotia typically bears the brunt of everything from us and kind of shields us from a lot of the possibility of what we could get. So
shields the area between Maine
and Nova Scotia. It's great. Thanks, guys. I saw some pictures. It looked pretty crazy out and about, like all the trees down and stuff, but it didn't seem like there was too much power outages that I saw.
I mean, there's still 22,000 people without power or something in New Brunswick, I think. I think there's quite a lot of outages in
the northern area.
In various places of the province. But Nova Scotia got hit quite a lot harder.
Yeah.
Their power grid got very, bad.
Right.
The good thing about St. John Power Grid with St. John Energy, the bulk of our wires are underground, which saves us from a lot of this. Otherwise, I think we'd be in the same boat.
Right. And then we had the crazy fire of AIM that happened. Was that start Wednesday? Like Wednesday night?
Wednesday overnight. Everybody learned about it Thursday morning. So AIM is a company that deals in scrap metal, and what they do is they flatten old cars and then put them on container ships and send them away, and they get the funds from the scrap metal, and that's how they make their money. Is they what's the word? Impact
the metal and
ship it off. And they ship it off. So to give a little bit of context on AIM in the city of St. John, it's been around the city since like 2002 or something like that. And it's over time, it seems like they're doing a lot more business. So there's reports of explosions there all the time. And what the explosions are reported to be are like little bits of fuel that are left in vehicles. And so people who live in the uptown area just across the small harbor from the Lower West Side where it's located on the Port St. John's land, as well as people who live in the Lower West Side, often complain about the explosions because it's a little scary to constantly hear explosions in your neighborhood. Which is understandable. And then in a 7-month period between 2021 and 2022, there were 2 workplace deaths on site, which are currently being investigated by WorkSafe NB. Can you tell I used to be a journalist? And I'm like, well, here's the background.
Yeah, so there was those workplace deaths, and then we had the fire that started Wednesday, and I, looking at the reports, it seemed like their security cameras were out because of some ransomware.
So essentially, the fire was reported as starting at like 4 a.m. Thursday morning. So it may have started overnight, Wednesday into Thursday is the report. And when asked why it wasn't noticed sooner, like in the CBC article, I think that was written by Julia Wright.
Yeah, I think so.
They said Herb Black, who is the president of AIM, said that they had security cameras that have been out due to ransomware since last spring. So like spring 2022. So they've been out for, almost a year and a half. And he said the fire was spotted by a lone mechanic at about 4 a.m. or something like that. At that point, it was already quite large, and which caused like smoke to billow throughout the city. It was
were insane.
It was quite a fire, and like props to the St. John Fire Department.
Heck yeah.
Also to other industrial industrial players in the city, like Irving Oil and JD Irving Limited. They both sent equipment to help fight the fire, because when you live in an industrial city, there's risk, and companies like Irving, they are well equipped for this risk. And thankfully they had a tug boat. I think it was a tug. It's not a tugboat, but it's actually the firefighting boat for Atlantic Towing in town. So they were able to use water from which probably, I mean, I'm no expert, but probably did a lot of good in terms of knocking that fire down as fast as it was knocked down. So during that day, what kind of experiences did you have here? You live in the Milledgeville area.
For me, it looked foggy out, which clearly was not fog. But normally it's fog, but it was like thicker and denser than fog. And what I really noticed first was the smell.
Yeah.
The smell was really bad. And then I have asthma, so that kind of clicked in that it was definitely not just fog. So that caused me a little bit of hardship for a little bit. And it was like it was kind of crazy to think. I mean, there's definitely some safety things that need to be investigated for sure. And from what I can see, the government is working on that and putting some stuff in place to investigate. So I'll be interested to see what comes out of that investigation for sure. And then of course we have what the CEO said, and for me, he just needs a better PR person, or not a better PR person. He probably needs to listen to his PR people.
Right.
He had some things that he said specifically this time around. What was the quote?
When there was a follow-up question asked about, like, he mentioned the security camera thing.
Yeah.
I think the follow-up question was, look, you've had a couple of deaths, workplace deaths, and now the security camera issue. Like, what are you doing to get your house in order, essentially? And he said, I don't want to talk about my business right now. It's not the time.
No, he said. He specifically said, "I'm not in the mood."
Oh yeah, I'm not in the mood. That was the. I'm not in the mood.
I'm not in the mood, and that was what. That's what. And I can't change the past. Those were the things that he said, and that was. And then, of course, when those deaths happened, he also said, "I'm not God."
I don't know what God's plan is.
I don't know what God's plan is, and
shit happens.
Yeah. So I mean, I think at the end of the day, I think there needs to be something what's said with the CEO, and potentially some safety things need to be looked at.
Well, yeah, and I mean, I from a citizen's perspective, and I don't have asthma, but I do. I'm a big girl. I sometimes struggle with breathing, and they did put in a shelter-in-place order, a voluntary shelter-in-place order in the city, particularly starting with the Uptown area and with Milledgeville. And I live uptown, and I actually didn't notice the smell, but I think it's because it was probably just there overnight, and I just acclimated to it quickly. And at first I didn't know. I was like, oh, it's just a dark day, and then I started to read the news. I was like, oh, so I shut all my windows and. My eyes started to burn and my throat got really sore. And I was like, oh, well, maybe I'm just getting sick, because I like to think like I can rise above things. I don't know. I like to think I'm superpowered.
I can live through toxic fumes in the air. I have
Yeah,
no problem
I feel
with
like
that.
I'm superhuman. I don't know what that is in my personality that generates that. But then I did go to my parents' house after work and spent a few hours out there, and like all of my symptoms magically
my
cleared up.
goodness,
And I was like,
what?
oh, maybe it was the air.
Yeah, so I can definitely understand people being stressed out about like what,
Well-
especially all this week has just been one thing after another. It seems.
It's stressful. It's a stressful time. And so that actually brings us
to our topic.
to our topic at hand, which is, what do we do when there's these stressful situations, particularly when they're saying there's a hurricane coming, prepare for at least 72 hours.
And I think the big one with hurricanes, everyone does the storm chip thing. And I think that's just people stress eating through or attempting to stress eat their way through what they think is going to be a crazy disaster.
Right. And like part of it is because you need food that you don't have to cook
That
if
too.
there is potential for power outages, because that's like the thing. And so like what did you do to prepare?
Honestly, for us to repair, we were kind of slack on the preparing. We got some food. We ordered in we ordered in from Superstore some food online, and we went and picked some like stuff up. We made a bunch of water, filtered all our Brita water. We've like 4 things of Brita water in there right now. It's crazy. And then I think Andrea ended up like cooking just a bunch of chili because you can just eat chili whenever.
Yeah.
But yeah, we did that, and then of course we did pick up some chips because it's the Maritimes, and what's a storm without storm chips?
I did virtually zero preparation because that's who I am as a person. I thought, whatever, it'll work out. But I did go to the grocery store on Thursday. Yeah, Thursday. Fire was Thursday. I was coming back from mom and dad's house, and I was like, I don't really have much food at home. I should probably buy a few things, groceries. Had very little to do with the storm, but I was feeling pretty stressed, and I've had some other stresses in my life in the last month. And so just generally stressing. Not one of those people who loses their appetite when they're stressed. It is actually quite the opposite. It's like
Right.
it grows another person.
Yep.
And I'm conscious of this, but at the same time, I was like, oh my God, what is happening? There's a hurricane coming. Oh my goodness. So I tried to make that as as wise a decisions as I could without going absolutely over the edge. But I definitely bought like cheese and crackers, and I didn't buy any chips, but cheese
No.
and crackers just the best. And I bought like a little bit of candy, Sour Nerds, new favorite sour
Nerds. Ooh.
crunchy nerds. They're like my new favorite candy because I love sour
Nice.
candy, and they're the right degree of sour. They're quite sour.
I like that.
They're also chewy. Love them
Nice.
with the coating. I don't know why I'm going
We're just gonna detail out all of it.
sour nerds. 10 out of 10 recommend. So that's fine and whatever. So and I bought one of those like pre-made mac and cheese meals
Nice. Okay.
and a couple of like ramen noodle
Yeah.
type pour boiling water over type things.
Yeah, we always have like a ton of ramen noodles here. We just are constantly stocking up on that, and we always have like cans of soup and stuff. Like that's the stuff you store away in case something's gonna happen.
Yeah.
That's
I don't have that stuff because
Yeah.
I am not generally unprepared for things.
because you don't adult as well as I do, apparently.
Well, I don't have a wife like you.
Okay, I don't adult well at all. Let's be real.
I'm not throwing out shade at Isaiah because he's a man. I'm throwing shade at Isaiah because he's Isaiah.
This is true.
Just to be clear for anybody listening.
So yeah, I mean, so I find myself stress eating often, not as much now. I'm trying to be more conscious of it. But what about you? Did you find yourself, you kind of just mentioned that you do typically stress eat?
I do generally, but in this case, I had bought the stuff and I had laid the groundwork. Just bought my chin off the microphone. Sorry to
Fine.
anybody listening. I don't know who I'm trying to make out with it. I laid the groundwork to stress eat, but I've not consumed most of what I bought, or I've consumed it in like an appropriate amount of time. So did I eat many vegetables in the last few days? No. But did I eat all of it at once? No. So I would call that a stress eat win.
That would be successful, yeah.
But I also on Saturday Hurricane Saturday, realized that I didn't have any water. I mean, the tap was still pouring. I didn't.
Yeah.
And when we have city water, we're still going to get water. But so it probably would have been fine. But I was like, oh, I should go buy some water. And I went out to visit a friend in Quispamsis and had a nice little, we had a lunch of craft dinner and egg rolls, which was delicious. And she's also a constant avid listener of this podcast. Hi, Amanda. Amanda was actually a guest once.
Yeah, a guest.
As was Katie, who was at the comedy show. I don't. Former guests of the show also hang out with me.
friends of the show.
And so we had a nice little chat, and I thought to myself, oh, I don't really have any chocolate. Got to fill that food group. I also think, oh, maybe I'll buy a big chug of water. Well, don't I stop at the KV Superstore? The entire water shelf was empty.
Yeah, panic buying is a thing as well, right? That's a huge thing that kind of really picked up over the pandemic was people, well, or at least became noticed. The toilet paper incident of 2020 when people were panic buying toilet paper.
Did I ever tell you that I got caught up in that?
You got caught up in the panic buying of toilet paper?
Well, in that I am unprepared for everything, and I was legitimately out of toilet paper because I left it to the last minute. And then I went to just buy toilet paper like a normal person, and I couldn't locate anyone because everybody else had panic bought it. And I was at work. We hadn't quite sent everybody home from work yet, but the panic buying had begun because most other places sent people home. And I said to my boss, I was like, I don't have any toilet paper. What am I going to do? And so she happened to be out on her lunch, and she texted me. She's like, I found some. I think I sent her like $13 or $15 or something to buy like a bit of toilet paper for me. And I was like, saved. Thank you.
I never experienced that part of that because whenever we went out for toilet paper, there was lots of toilet paper. I didn't notice it at all. But I'm special like that.
Well, there you go.
I am the special person. But yeah, I think this was like a ramble episode. We talked a little bit about stress eating.
Well, yeah, that's fine. Ramble episodes. But anyway, stress eating, I laid the groundwork for it because I thought I'd want to stress eat, but I really didn't. The hurricane wasn't so bad for us in my privileged world.
Yeah, I didn't stress eat that much this time around. I have found myself stress eating before in the past, and I think that's something that everyone. Well, you either really stress out and eat a lot, or you stress out and you're physically can't eat.
Right.
And I think those are the two kind of forms that people typically take on when they're stressed out.
Yeah.
But I think we should end the episode here.
I think we should.
Where can people find you on the internet?
People can find me at Fat Caitlin on TikTok, at the Caitlin Dean on Twitter, whatever it's called today, at Kate D or Kated on Instagram, and Facebook. We're Kate and Isaiah Living Large.
And you can find me at Maritime Brews everywhere. I've started posting my stuff again. Whoop whoop. As well as if you wish to donate to the Microphone Fund, our Buy Me a Coffee or Buy Me a Mic, as I call it, should be in the link below. And if you are listening anywhere, you can also find the video of this on YouTube. And if you're watching on YouTube, if you could like, share, and subscribe, and then hit that bell button for notifications when we post our newest episodes, that would be awesome. But until next week, bye.
Bye.